Okay, so let's go ahead and work on our servo motor and hinge. So in this, we're going to build out the motor and hinge system that makes the little MiniDomes hinge move. So we're basically going to build this whole apparatus right here. So you can do this one more time. We're done. Oh, isn't that cute? Up and down. Now I'm using my thumb to move this. Of course, we'll be using a microcontroller to make this happen. But that's what we're going to end up building. We're going to build this whole assembly right here. Okay, so let's have fun making this. This is going to be a good time. Part of the build guide, we have a 3D printed assembly for motor movement for the pie panels. This is designed by Kyle Peterson. Thank you, Kyle, for your work on this. He designed a hinge system that was simple, that was cost effective, and used a really small motor. So we should have these little SG9, S51 micro servo motors here that we're going to be using as a part of today's piece. And we'll also have a one pie plate. This will go right in here like this. We'll have one of the plates here, part of the hinge plates. Two legs, leg, and a base. So those are our 3D parts we're going to need. We're also going to need the servo and its accompanying horns and screws and whatnots. We're going to be opening that up here in a second. We're going to need one M3 screw. Length doesn't really matter as long as it's long enough to go through everything. And one little nut, which depends on how tight the screw is to the legs, you may not even need. So we're going to kind of play around with that, but we need all of that right there. And last but not least, one medium-sized paper clip that we're going to use to move the hinge. I know, paper clip. Hey, we're trying to be cost effective here. So this is a cheap build of R2D2's donut. All right, parts and pieces I'm using other than one side of the MiniDome. I'm only going to do one hinge. If you could do one hinge, you could do a second. So you'll be doing two of these. Put this in here. So I'm going to do this one side here. I'm also going to be using some sandpaper. Any sandpaper will do. Some snippy snips. A little screwdriver. A couple drill bits. So, you know, if you have a set of drill bits, I'll be using a 1/16 drill bits, and then something that basically fits the size of an M3. So like an M3 drill bit here. And I'll show you how that size works out. But basically whatever size is going to fit that screw. And I'll show you what I mean by that here in a second. And then I'm using one Allen wrench that fits my M3 screw. Last but not least, a hot glue gun, because hot glue is awesome. You also can use super glue if you want to. Any glue will be just fine if it's cured correctly. All right, so let's prep some things first. First things, we always got to prep our stuff. So we're working with 3D printed plastic. So when you printed this off, it may have looked like this. That's kind of hard to see, I know, with the camera, but you may have had it, there we go, printed, and all the pieces are connected. And if you printed it with supports, it may have had a little support piece right here. Nancy Shunke, one of our teachers, part of the STEM group and the STEM coordinator for the droid builders, found that if you put the pie plate straight up, it prints a little bit better and costs a little bit less filament. And all you have to do is clean up this one side. So that worked out really well. Everything else should just lay flat and print it. This has got a you don't really probably need this big of a support in terms of a base, but we printed it that way on one of those. Stop doing that for some of the others. Whatever sticks. So we need to clean up a few pieces. So you probably want to sand the sides and edges, make sure everything's cleaned up. Anything on this side here, especially. So on the pie panel here, it'll stick on the bottom if we don't have this cleaned up real nice. Just make sure you get that really nice and cleaned up, okay? So get that real nice and clean. Make sure there's no burrs sticking out and everything looking real good there, okay? That's going to be your showing piece too. We also want to clean off the back part of the base. The back part of the base has support materials on it, so we want to kind of clean that up too. Get that looking real nice. Next thing we want to do is make sure that we have enough clearance for our screws to go through the 3D printed plastic. What I mean by that is we need to make sure that the hole here and the holes in the legs are the right sizes for our screws. Now, you may not have to do this. My 3D printers required me to pre-drill some material out of it to get the screws to go in correctly. You may not need to do this based upon your 3D printer. My TASBots definitely need this. When Kyle designed these, they were made for M3 screws. So just kind of slide in there just like that. Now, if that doesn't slide in like that, all you have to do is just find any drill bit that is just a hair bigger than an M3 screw. See that one? That's what I'm using right now. And just drilling out those holes. You'll drill this hole. And then on the legs, you can see the leg is like this. You'll drill out that big hole right there. Okay. That's going to do, as I showed you a second ago, that's going to do one of these things here. That's what it's going to do. Okay. So make sure that you have those drilled out. Now the 1/16 screw is right here where the paper clip goes in. The exact same kind of issue. If it's made for a medium-sized paper clip, but if it doesn't, medium paper clip doesn't go through that, just take a real small drill bit, just drill through that. It will not hurt a thing to have the hole through there. That'll be just fine. Okay. Done with that. So once we've done that, once we have completed that process, now we can start assembling some things. First thing I would recommend is go ahead and just start working with the base. So let's go ahead and get the arms connected here. So I'm going to take this little guy here, the screw, and I'm going to go into the side of one of the legs. So I'm going to take this guy here and just kind of go through. Now, it may have a little, like this one here is a little bit tight. That's fine. It's okay if it's tight. No worries. And I'm through most of the way. Then I'm going to take and just slide that right on like this guy here. I'm going to take the other side and do the exact same thing. I'm going to screw through that side too, so you can kind of see what I'm doing here. All the way through. You don't want it super tight. So that, like that is probably fine. Now the screws I'm using right now is a little too short. You kind of see that. That's a little too short. I couldn't put a nut at the end of this. The screws that I recommend are a little longer. I didn't have any of those. So for this demo, just imagine the screw being a little bit longer and you'd put a nut on the end of that. So use our imagination for that, can't we? I gave out all the screws that are a little bit longer to all of my teachers that are doing this project. So I shouldn't have any problem there with our demo. I say that and something will fall apart, right? That's how that goes. All right, so that's our number one step. So now we have this. Look at that. Isn't that nice? Whoop, whoop. So boom, that's step number one. Step number two, we can go a couple of different ways here. We can go ahead and glue on this guy here. or we can go ahead and attach our motor. So I'm just going to go ahead and see how I'm screwing stuff in right now. I'm going to go ahead and attach my motor. All right, so let me grab a few things. Give me a second. So I'm going to open up my bag here. I need the 2 screws that are accompanied with the little servo. Just drop those anywhere, Josh. Should be just fine. There's 2 screws that have the pointy ends. Those are going to go into the base right here. So there's 3 screws in that package. There's 2 with the little screw holes here. I'm going to take the motor and that is away from the hinge. I'm going to slide in just like that, and it's going to be on this side like this. I don't want the motor piece here to be in the front. I want it to be on the back. Okay, it's pretty important to make sure you do that. Then I'm going to take these 2 screws and I'm going to attach them. Now, for time's sake, I'm only going to attach 1 screw. But you'll want to do both. It's not a lot of torque on these, so it's not like it's going to go anywhere if you just use 1. So it'd probably be just fine with 1. So that's not going to come out of there with 1. So that's attached. Yay, go us. Look at us accomplishing things. So that's done. So I'm going to lose that other screw. I better put it in there. If I don't do it now, I'll lose it. Of course, there you go. Struggles are real. If I'm doing this pretty quick, I'm trying to be fast to save time on a video. You know, YouTube, I'm trying to upload these to YouTube. And how that algorithm works. All right, so there we go. So we got 2 screws in there. Perfect. Now we're going to use, there's 3 shoe servo horns, which are the things that go on top of the servos. We're only going to use the one with the 1 arm. That's the guy right there we're going to use. Now I'm just going to go ahead and put him on here. So we'll just kind of slide in there like that. I'm just going to put him anywhere I want to because I'm not going to do anything with him for a hot minute. I'll show you what I mean, but I'm just going to kind of keep him on there. Now this screw goes right in here. Keep that in place. Now, we don't need it right away. I'm going to go ahead and put it in there just so it's there, but we'll need to adjust this later. When we do the coding, we'll have to adjust this, but if you want to go ahead, just kind of barely put it in there. Welcome to, but you'll have to take this back out. So I wouldn't either A, know where that's at, that little screw right there, know where that's at, or just put it in there for a little bit. It may be kind of hard to get it in there once it's there, but we have to make sure that we can get to this servo horn. We got to move it around a little bit. All right, next we're going to use some hot glue. We're going to glue on this plate right here. So I'm going to do my best to kind of show this plate. This plate has a little bit of a curve to it. It's probably hard to see on the video, but it's got a little curve to the top. That's to fit this curve right here. So that curve should sit in there and be decently flush. It's not going to be perfect. You'll notice if you go the other way, there's a little bit of a gap. See that little bit of a gap? Little flush, little gap. See that? So you want to use the side that's a flush. There's no gap in this piece right here. So it should go like that. So that's the side I'm going to put down. That's the side I'm going to put this here down. So I'm going to try to zoom up a little bit on this so you can kind of see what I'm doing. So that's going to go just like that. And try not to block the camera too much here, but this is going to kind of sit right between those 2 circles right there. There's 2 little holes. So I'm going to put some hot glue down. Try to be quick because hot glue is what it is. As straight as I possibly can and not bump the camera. So like that is not too bad. Now, in a lot of my domes, I used super glue for this section right here. That works pretty well too. You just, once super glue is bonded, it's kind of hard to move it back off. So if we have to move anything later, it's just kind of a pain in the rear end to deal with. Okay. I'll let that sit for a second. That should be good now. So now we have this. So now we have, look at that. Getting more and more exciting, I think. Cool beans. All right, next what we're going to do is we're going to glue this into our dome. Now what's going to happen here is I'm going to glue this into the dome because I'm going to have this go in and out of glue stringing across here. It's going to go in. It's going to go in here like this. Make that centered inside that space. And you're going to have that touch the top. So you're going to have that centered in there. So it's going to look like that right there. And that should be touching the middle piece of that right there. So it should come out and be like that. Come back and touch right there. Okay. That's where that would go. Just like that. Well, see how that's a little bit of an angle there? Well, just like that. That's where I want that to be. So I'm going to throw some glue down on my base down here. Just a glue. Try to be quick about it. Try to center that best I possibly can. Glue is a little forgiving. We got a little bit of time. Make that wonderfulness happen. See? Perfect. So then it should just sit there just like that because it's touching that piece right there. Now it can go a little bit lower as long as it's touching somewhere in there. But when you put this in, there should be a little bit of a gap there. Here, hit a little bit. So it shouldn't be pushing out. So it shouldn't be like this. So it should be down far enough it's touching in there. Okay. Our next step is to glue this to that. So I'm just going to put some glue on the pie panel piece here. Let's put some hot glue on that guy right there. And I'm going to take that. Just kind of shove it up to the very top area. Push that in. Feel like you didn't get enough, you can put some through those holes there. Just go crazy. It's hot. It's hot glue. Have fun with the glue. On there. I think I did. I just gotta be patient. I have patient issues. You also have patient issues. I do. So. Get off their hot glue. Get off you. All right. Hot glue should now be there. And now, la ba, ba, da, ba. So now we have a hinge that moves, oh, sorry, moves up and attaches. Moves up and attaches. Look at that wonderfulness right there. Isn't that beautiful? Hinge up and attaches. Hinge up, attaches. So we now have a hinge that's attaching correctly. And now we need to put on the connections between this and this. So the hinge is just going to kind of sit there and hang, and that's fine. Oh, my hinge is loose, hot. Yep. Said it wasn't patient enough. It's one fall off there. And let it cure. So now we take our paper clip and we do some prep on the paper clip. So the paper clip is a medium-sized paper clip. And we're going to use it to connect the servo horn to the actual legs. So to do that, you take the paper clip and kind of bend it like that. We bend the other side like that. We get this. Use the natural curve of the paper clip. These are medium-sized paper clips. We have found that right there is perfect for what we're needing for our motor movement for the arm. So I'm just going to clip off this piece here. Maybe. There we go. There's a little bit. Just like that. Make sure no one's around because it'll fly off. And now I have this little bar here. I'm going to take that bar. I'm going to slide it through here. Then I'm going to slide it through the top of the horn. Oh. Second here. Yeah. There we go. Just like that. See that? That gives us that right there. Oh, I probably snipped off a little bit too much right there. See that right there? You're just going to kind of bend those around, bend this around so it doesn't pop off. And now we have that. Now we have motor motion. Look at that. So we don't do too crazy with the motor motion right here because that could strip out the motors. Don't go too far. But that is the motor motion we're looking for the servo hinge. So it'll look something like that by the time you're done. It's probably a little too much of a bend right there. Bend it back a little bit. But that is the idea behind that. And look at that. Fantastic, right? So that is one of the motors. We'll be connecting this motor to our Arduino into a breadboard and making all that wonderfulness work. I'll have another video series on other processes as we go through building one of these domes together with you live. And hope you learned a lot. You understand what we're doing with that piece. Have a great time. I'll catch you next time. Thank you.